My name's Adrian. I'm 23, and for most of my life, I've been the invisible one in my family. Not the rebel, not the star, just background noise. Teachers used to call me responsible. My parents called me steady. But when I look back, those were just polite ways of saying forgettable. The spotlight always belonged to my older brother, Lucas. He was the kind of person who could fail spectacularly and still have people cheering for him. Charismatic, athletic, magnetic. He was the golden boy who never had to try too hard. Me, I was the one with books stacked on the nightstand, working nights to pay tuition, building quiet achievements nobody clapped for. I thought graduation day would finally change that. I'd worked for years to get there. Double shifts at a grocery store. Tutoring freshmen in math I barely understood myself. Nights hunched over borrowed textbooks until my vision blurred. The degree wasn't just paper, it was proof that I had built something on my own without help. That morning, I ironed my gown 3 times just to make sure it looked crisp in photos. I set aside 4 seats in the auditorium front row easy view for my parents and Lucas. For once, I thought they'd see me. Instead, 4 hours before the ceremony, a text pinged in the family group chat. From Mom, "We can't make it today. Something came up. We'll celebrate soon." I stared at it for a full minute, waiting for the punchline. Then Lucas chimed in. "Heading to Aspen last-minute trip. Gonna be epic." A minute later, Mom dropped a string of skiing emojis like confetti. That was it. No apology. No, sorry, we're missing your big day. Just skiing. I didn't reply. I couldn't. My throat closed up and my apartment walls felt too close. Still, I forced myself to go through the motions. On campus, families laughed in clusters holding flowers, snapping photos under banners that read, "Congratulations, class of 20X." My friends hugged their parents. I smiled politely when people congratulated me, but every time I glanced at the front row, all I saw were strangers. When my name was called, I walked across the stage, shook the dean's hand, smiled for the camera. And just as I stepped off, my phone buzzed. A text from Dad. "Come home, immediately." No explanation, just that. I froze. Then came the avalanche 37 missed calls in less than an hour. Same message over and over. "Come home now." The irony was sharp enough to cut skin. They skipped the ceremony like it meant nothing, yet suddenly I was supposed to drop everything and rush home. I ignored it at first. I wanted to hold on to the one good moment I had, but that night, still wearing my cap and gown because I couldn't bear to take them off yet, I saw another message flash on my screen, this time from Mom. "Your brother needs you. It's important." Of course, always him. When Lucas scraped his knee as a kid, the world stopped until he got ice cream. When I sprained my wrist at school, Mom told me to walk it off. That pattern never changed. Lucas's problems were family emergencies. Mine were inconveniences. I didn't answer. I poured a bowl of cereal instead, sat at the table in silence, and thought about all the milestones overshadowed by him. My high school graduation. He threw a party the night before and got caught. The only thing people talked about at my ceremony was his suspension. My first job. He wrecked his car the same day, and suddenly the family group chat was full of insurance advice instead of congratulations. Now even this. My college graduation, the first in the family, and they chose Aspen over me. By 9 p.m., Dad called again. Against my better judgment, I picked up. His face filled the screen tight with impatience. "Adrian, finally. We've been trying to reach you all day." "I was busy," I said flatly. "Graduating." He brushed it aside like lint. "Lucas is in trouble. He needs you tonight. His credit cards are maxed and he can't pay the balance." I blinked. What does that have to do with me? Dad sighed, like I was being unreasonable. "You've always been good with money. You've been working and saving." Lucas wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. I clenched my jaw. "You skipped my graduation to go skiing, and now you want me to bail him out?" "It wasn't about skiing," he said quickly. But behind him, I could see the glow of a ski lodge chandelier. He wasn't even home. "Lucas has been under pressure. We thought the trip would help." I almost laughed. And I guess I haven't been under pressure. His eyes hardened, the same look I'd seen my whole life whenever I dared to make it about me. "Stop being selfish." That unspoken command hung in the silence between us. I hung up. That was the moment it clicked the pattern. the roles, the truth I had tried so long to deny. I wasn't family, not in the same way Lucas was. I was the spare, the safety net, the resource they could drain when their golden boy stumbled. 2 days later, Lucas himself called. No hello, just, so when are you bringing the money over? I'm not, I said. He laughed like I was joking. Don't be like that. You've always helped me before. Exactly, I said. And you've never once shown up for me. Not for my graduation, not for anything. Why should I help you now? His tone turned sharp. Wow, you're really going to hold a grudge over some ceremony, that's petty, Adrian. That word petty hit like a slap. It was their favorite weapon. Anytime I stood up for myself, I wasn't defending my boundaries. I was overreacting. By the end of that week, my phone was flooded with texts from aunts, uncles, even grandma. Variations of the same message. He's your brother. You can't just let him fail. Family comes first. Don't throw everything away over money. Not one of them mentioned my graduation. Not one. And that's when the anger started to settle into something colder, clearer. It wasn't about the money. It never had been. It was about the way they saw me, not as a son or a brother, but as an ATM, a tool, a shadow to their favorite. I didn't know it yet, but that was the first fracture. The first domino tipping. Because what they had done wasn't just cruel, it was reckless. They thought I'd swallow it like always. But this time they had no idea how far they were about to push me, or how differently I was going to push back. The calls didn't stop. Every day that week, my phone buzzed like a wasp trapped in a jar, Dad, Mom, Lucas, extended family. I stopped answering. Every voicemail was some version of the same script. He's your brother. Don't abandon him. At first, I thought maybe if I ignored them long enough, the storm would blow over. I was wrong. One quiet Thursday morning, while sending out job applications, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something in me picked up. Hello? Mr. Rivers, a polite woman asked. This is Angela from First National Bank. I'm just calling to confirm a transfer request we received this morning, $4,800 to a joint account under the name Lucas Rivers. My heart slammed against my ribs. Excuse me, I didn't authorize any transfer. There was a pause, then Angela's voice softened. That's what I thought. We flagged it because the IP address came from an unusual location. Your parents' home, to be exact. I went cold. I thanked her, told her to cancel it immediately, and hung up. Then I just sat there, staring at my reflection in the black screen of my laptop. They hadn't just asked this time. They hadn't begged or guilt-tripped. They'd taken, without hesitation, without asking. Because deep down, they didn't believe the money was mine in the first place. I thought back to high school, when Mom insisted on keeping my bank login just to keep an eye on things. I never bothered changing it. I trusted they'd never cross that line. Clearly, that trust was misplaced. Minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from Lucas. Thanks for covering it, man. I'll pay you back when I can. That wink nearly broke something in me. I called Mom immediately. She answered cheerfully like nothing was wrong. Adrian, we were just talking about you. You should come by this weekend. Did you authorize a transfer from my account? I cut in. Silence, not confusion calculation. Oh, sweetheart, she said finally. We knew you'd help your brother. He's under a lot of pressure. We didn't want to bother you with details while you were busy. You stole from me, I said, my voice shaking. Don't be dramatic. We're family. It's not stealing when it's for someone you love. That sentence lodged in me like glass. It's not stealing when it's for someone you love. For years, I'd believed their version of love meant sacrifice. But standing there in my tiny kitchen diploma, still propped unopened against the wall, it hit me. Their version of love was just entitlement dressed up in sentiment. I hung up. The silence that followed was sharp, like the air had edges. I sat down at my desk, opened a notebook, and started writing. Not just about the transfer, but everything. The graduation. The party that overshadowed my high school milestone. The countless times I'd been told to be the bigger person. Page after page, I wrote it all down. When I finally stopped, I had 10 full pages of incidents. It read less like a family history and more like a pattern of exploitation. That night, I changed every password I had. Bank, email, cloud storage, everything. And yet, even with my accounts secured, I couldn't shake the feeling that another shoe was about to drop. 2 weeks passed. I tried to focus on job applications, even landed a couple of interviews. But every time my phone lit up with a family number, my chest tightened. When I finally opened the family group chat one night, I saw a stream of photos from Aspen. Lucas grinning in ski goggles, champagne bottle raised. Captions like "Living the Dream" and "Our Golden Boy" filled the feed. Not a single photo from my graduation, not even a mention. The truth was unavoidable now. I could win a Nobel Prize and they'd still find a way to make it about him. And yet the theft, that line they crossed, gave me something I'd never had before: clarity. I realized I'd been waiting for recognition from people who had no interest in giving it. Worse, I'd been letting them treat me like a resource instead of a son. That clarity was both devastating and liberating. But my family wasn't done with me yet. They weren't going to let me drift away quietly. Not when they thought I still had something they could use. The next phase of their campaign was subtler. Calls from relatives who rarely spoke to me before. "How's work? Are you eating well? We're so proud of you." It was almost laughable how transparent it was. They weren't checking in out of care. They were softening me up for another ask. Lucas started texting again, too. Harmless things at first. "Hey man, what are you up to this weekend? Know any good shows to watch?" I gave short answers. Polite, but distant. I knew the pattern. He'd circle ease his way back in, and then bam, another demand. This time I wasn't going to let him. Oddly enough, that same month, something good happened. I landed a part-time job as a research assistant at a small consulting firm. It didn't pay much, but it gave me breathing room. My supervisor, Karen, noticed my work and actually complimented me in front of the team. I didn't know how to respond. I wasn't used to being praised without a but. 2 months in the part-time gig turned into full-time. Suddenly, I could pay rent without stressing, even start saving again. For the first time, I felt my life moving forward not because of them, but in spite of them. And I kept it quiet. No updates in the family chat, no bragging. Let them believe I was barely scraping by. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't over. They would come again, with bigger stakes, with more pressure. And when they did, I would be ready. One rainy Tuesday evening, 6 months after graduation, the other shoe finally dropped. I had just left the office when I got a call from an unfamiliar number. The man introduced himself as Mr. Carter, a partner at a mid-sized investment firm. "Adrian, I've heard good things about you," he said. "Karen speaks highly of your work. We could use you on a project we're taking on." My heart leapt, though I kept my voice calm. "What kind of project?" "A portfolio restructuring for a boutique hotel chain," he explained. It wasn't just a job. It was an entry point into a whole new world, one my family couldn't touch. As I walked home under the rain, phone still warm in my hand, I felt something stir inside me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't powerless. I had options, leverage, a future that didn't depend on them. And that's when it hit me, my family still thought I was the same old Adrian, the obedient one, the background character. They had no idea who they were dealing with anymore. What they didn't realize was that every betrayal had been teaching me something. And the day they made their next move, I would be ready with mine. By the time fall rolled around, my life looked nothing like it had 6 months earlier. The research job that started as part-time was now a full-time career track. My supervisor, Karen, gave me responsibilities I'd never imagined, projects that actually mattered, projects people noticed. For the first time, my days weren't about survival. They were about growth. And I guarded that growth fiercely. I didn't post about promotions. I didn't share updates in the family chat. If mom asked how work was going, I gave the same clipped answer every time: fine. Busy. That was it. The less they knew, the less they could exploit. Because I knew them well enough by now. Silence wasn't peace, it was plotting. I started keeping a second notebook separate from the one filled with old grievances. This one was for the present. Every odd text, every subtle check-in from relatives who never used to care, every probing question about my finances, I logged it. One detail stood out whenever Lucas messaged me. The timing felt deliberate. Right after payday. Right after I'd been tagged in a coworker's LinkedIn post. Right after small visible wins. It wasn't intuition. It was a pattern. He was circling. Sure enough, by winter, the questions started shifting. Mom called one Sunday evening, her voice syrupy sweet. Adrian, honey, you've been so busy. We hardly see you anymore. We should have a family dinner soon. My gut clenched. Mom never suggested dinners without a reason. I played along. Maybe. My schedule's tight. Well, she pressed, we'll make it easy. This Sunday, I'll cook your favorite roast chicken. I almost laughed. I hadn't had a favorite meal in that house since I was 12. But I said yes, not because I wanted to, because I needed to see what they were up to. In the meantime, my own life kept climbing. The boutique hotel restructuring project turned into something bigger than I'd expected. Late nights, endless spreadsheet strategy calls that bled past midnight, but for once, I wasn't drained. I was alive. That's where I met Michael Reeves, the chain's owner. Sharp suit, sharper eyes, the kind of man who noticed details most people missed. After one meeting, he pulled me aside. "You're not just good with numbers," he said. "You understand people. That's rare. Don't waste it." I didn't know it then, but Michael would become one of the most important connections of my life. The kind of ally my family couldn't dream of having. That realization gave me a dangerous kind of calm, because for the first time I had something they didn't leverage. Meanwhile, through networking events and casual conversations, I started hearing whispers. Lucas had been pitching a business idea, a luxury sports bar, to anyone who'd listen. The problem, no one was buying. A colleague at a mixer leaned in one night and said, "Your brother's been making rounds with investors. Word is, he's desperate. No bank will touch him. Too risky." I tucked that information away, because I could already see where this was going. It was classic family strategy: dress up Lucas's crisis as a family opportunity. Spin it as a chance for me to show loyalty to invest in the future. They'd call it bonding. I'd call it bailing him out again. And I knew the pitch was coming soon. That Sunday, I drove to my parents' house for the so-called family dinner. The smell of roast chicken hit me as I stepped inside, but the air was off. Too polished, too rehearsed. Dad sat in his armchair like he was about to lead a board meeting. Mom flitted around with wine glasses, overly cheerful. Lucas lounged on the couch, casual but watchful eyes, just a little too bright. After the hollow greetings and the forced small talk, Mom sat down across from me, hands folded like she was about to deliver good news. "We're so glad you could make it, Adrian," she said. "There's something exciting we want to talk about. A family opportunity." There it was. Lucas perked up, flipping open a laptop. He pulled out glossy brochures like he was unveiling the next big tech startup. He launched into his pitch sports bar of the future exclusive partnerships ground floor opportunity. The words washed over me like static. I'd heard versions of this song before. When he finally stopped, Mom leaned in with that expectant smile. "We already have interest from investors, but we'd love to keep it in the family. You could come in as a primary backer. It would be such a great way to bond." I kept my voice even. "And how much are we talking about?" Lucas didn't flinch. $150,000 for 30% equity. Huge upside, man. I set my glass down carefully. "That's a big ask." The room went still. Because this time I wasn't going to smile and nod. This time I had my own cards to play. The brochures spread across the coffee table looked like props from a bad play. Polished graphics, buzzwords, and glossy photos of bars that didn't exist. Lucas grinned as if he were unveiling gold. I leaned back in my chair, fingers drumming softly against the glass of water Mom had poured me. $150,000, I repeated, my tone flat. "Exactly," Lucas said, his confidence unwavering. "But you'd get in early. 30% ownership, guaranteed returns. This is the kind of investment people dream about." "Dreams," I murmured, "can turn into nightmares pretty fast." Mom forced a smile, her eyes narrowing just slightly. "Adrian, this is your brother's future. He's been working so hard. Don't you want to support him?" I let the silence stretch my heartbeat steady. Then I leaned forward. Out of curiosity, I said, "When you pitched this idea to First State Bank, what did they say?" The room froze. Lucas's smile faltered. "What?" "Or Harborview Capital," I continued calmly. "Or Westline Financial. All three rejected you. I'm guessing because your projections didn't add up. Or am I wrong?" The only sound was the faint hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen. Dad cleared his throat. "Adrian, this isn't about. It's exactly about that I cut him off." My voice was calm, measured, but firm. "You sit here acting like this is some grand opportunity when really it's just a bailout. Again, for Lucas. And you expected me to walk in blind. Mom's voice cracked into that familiar tone of false sweetness, the one she always used when cornered. "Sweetheart, we didn't want to overwhelm you with all the details." This was supposed to be a chance for us to build something together. I pulled a folder from my bag and slid it onto the table. Inside was a bound copy of my firm's portfolio clients' contracts revenue projections. Real numbers, real success. "You're right about one thing," I said evenly. "I am in a good position. Good enough to know the difference between an investment and a sinkhole." Lucas's face flushed red. "Sinkhole. You don't know what you're talking about. You've always been jealous." I cut him off again, sharper this time. "Jealous of you? Let me remind you, after my graduation, someone tried to pull nearly $5,000 from my account using the login information only our parents had. And who benefited you? That wasn't just a request. That was theft. And you thanked me with a winking emoji like it was some inside joke." The color drained from Mom's face. Dad shifted in his chair, jaw tightening. Lucas sputtered, That was nothing. It was proof." I snapped, my voice finally rising. "Proof that in this family my role has never been son or brother, just safety net, ATM, backup plan for the golden boy." And I'm done. The silence that followed was heavy. I stood, sliding the folder back into my bag. I don't invest in people who steal from me. And I sure as hell don't bankroll someone who thinks loyalty means blind sacrifice. I walked toward the door. My heart pounded, but my voice stayed calm when I turned back. "One more thing. Michael Reeves. He's a friend now. His company owns 3 of the busiest bars in this city. If your pitch crosses his desk, and it will, you can guess how that'll go." Lucas's eyes widened, panic flickering in the cracks of his bravado. Mom opened her mouth to speak, but Dad placed a hand on her arm, stopping her. I let the silence hang a moment longer, then left. The rain outside hit my face like a cleansing slap. For the first time in years, I felt light, because the person who had walked into that house was not the same person who walked out. They had expected the obedient Adrian, the one who swallowed his pride for the sake of family peace. Instead, they met the Adrian they had created without realizing it, the one who knew how to stand on his own, the one who finally understood the power of saying no. I thought the confrontation would end it, that walking away would be enough. But what I didn't see then was how deeply that single evening cut into the image of the perfect family they had spent years parading to the world. And people like them, they don't handle cracks in the facade very well. The fallout started faster than I expected. 2 weeks later, I got a text from an old neighbor. "Just saw your brother at the bank." He looked furious. Something happening. That same day, Michael forwarded me an email. Lucas had pitched him directly, desperate, trying to bypass me. Michael's response was short, professional, devastating. "Not financially sound. Proceed with caution." And just like that, Lucas's dream was dead. Word spread fast in business circles. His name became shorthand for overpromising and under-delivering. No bank would touch him. No investor wanted a meeting. That would have been enough. But then Mom called me late one night, her voice shaking with anger. "Do you know what you've done? Your brother's future is ruined. We had to take out a line of credit on the house to cover his debts." I kept my tone even. I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped protecting him from the consequences of his choices. There was silence. I could almost hear her swallowing words she couldn't spit out. Finally, her voice came through, soft but icy. "You've changed." "Yes," I said, "I have," and I hung up. The strange part, I slept better than I had in years, because for the first time, I wasn't carrying a weight that wasn't mine. But what I didn't realize then was that this was only the first act of their downfall. They weren't done, not by a long shot. And they had no idea how much stronger I'd gotten. After that dinner, I expected distance, maybe even silence. What I didn't expect was the campaign that followed. It started with Mom. She left voicemails dripping with disappointment. "Adrian family doesn't turn its back. You'll regret this when you're older." Then Dad, "Your brother made mistakes, but you're punishing all of us. Is that what you want?" When guilt didn't work, they escalated. I got texts from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. We heard about the argument. Don't throw away family over money. Lucas just needs a chance. Be the bigger person like you always were. That line made me laugh bitterly. Like you always were. Yes, I'd been the bigger person for 23 years. And where had it gotten me invisible at my own graduation? Robbed in my own bank account. So this time I didn't fold. Meanwhile, my life outside of them was exploding in the best way. The consulting firm work turned into something bigger than I'd dreamed. After the boutique hotel project, Michael Reeves introduced me to 3 other business owners who needed help restructuring. One gig became 2 became 5. Within months, I filed the paperwork for my own firm. It was just me and a laptop at first, but word spread. By the end of the quarter, I had more income than I'd made in my entire first year post-graduation. And here's the part I savored most: they didn't know. To them, I was still the struggling younger son scraping by, maybe lucky to pay rent. They thought they still had leverage. In reality, the scales had flipped completely. Of course, Lucas couldn't help himself. One night he texted, "Hey man, proud of you. We should grab a beer soon." I stared at the screen. Proud of me? The same man who mocked me for being boring, who called me petty for wanting acknowledgement, was suddenly supportive. I typed back 2 words, "I'm busy." The truth was, I wasn't just busy. I was deliberately unavailable. I had finally learned that my peace was worth more than their approval. But peace wasn't what they wanted from me. One Friday evening, as I was leaving the office, I found Dad waiting outside my apartment building. Suit jacket, tired eyes, a posture I'd never seen before, slightly hunched, almost pleading. "Adrian," he said, "we need to talk." I crossed my arms. "About what?" "Lucas, the bank is threatening to take legal action. Your mother and I can't cover it all. We need you." There it was. Not even dressed up this time. "Just, we need your money." I shook my head. "No." His jaw tightened. "After everything we've done for you." I cut him off, my voice calm but sharp. "What have you done for me? You skipped my graduation for a ski trip. You stole from my account. You covered for Lucas's mistakes my entire life. If this is your definition of family, I'm done paying the bill." He flinched, just slightly, but I saw it. For the first time in my life, my words landed. That weekend, I got a call from Grandma. She was the one person I thought might understand. "Adrian," she said softly, "your parents are under so much stress. Can't you find it in your heart to help?" I closed my eyes. "Grandma, when was the last time anyone in this family showed up for me, not for Lucas? For me?" She didn't answer. "Exactly," I said. "I love you, but I'm done being their crutch." And for the first time ever, I ended a call with her before she could end it with me. The pressure campaign slowed after that. Calls came less often. Messages trickled instead of flooded. But I could sense the shift. They weren't giving up, they were regrouping. And while they scrambled, I kept building. My firm grew. I hired 2 assistants. I moved into a downtown apartment with a skyline view I used to dream about from my tiny student housing. For the first time, I woke up every morning not dreading who might need me that day. I woke up excited for me. Then came the last desperate attempt. Late one night, Lucas showed up at my building. I saw him through the lobby glass rain, plastering his hair to his forehead. He buzzed up. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Adrian," his voice cracked through the speaker. "Please, I messed up. I don't know what else to do. You're the only one who can fix this." I almost laughed. The only one who can fix this. That had been my role forever, hadn't it? The fixer, the safety net, the invisible sibling who patched holes no one thanked him for. But not anymore, Lucas, I said quietly. The only thing I can fix is myself. And I already did. Then I hung up. I watched from my window as he stood there in the rain for another 5 minutes, shoulders slumped, before finally walking away. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. What I didn't realize then was how permanent that freedom was about to become. Because in cutting them off, I wasn't just escaping their demands. I was dismantling the image of family they'd clung to for years, and the fallout of that was something none of us would ever come back from. 6 months passed. The city looked different from my new place, glass towers, a small river of headlights, sunrise hitting the windows like fire. I woke up before my alarm most days. Coffee, a run by the park, a quiet apartment that stayed quiet unless I invited sound in. Peace has a texture. Mine felt like warm light and clean countertops. Work grew. 2 clients turned into 8. I hired a junior analyst named Mina who asked good questions and never pretended to know what she didn't. Karen became a mentor, not just a supervisor. Michael sent introductions that turned into contracts. I learned to say no to deals that didn't feel right. I learned that I didn't owe anyone access to my time, my money, or my mind. I framed my diploma. Simple black frame, white mat. I hung it over my desk and sat there a long time looking at it the way you look at a mountain you actually climbed. No one clapped when I hung it. No one needed to. I froze my credit. New bank. Two-factor, everything. I kept the printout from the bank about the attempted transfer. I didn't press charges. I didn't need a courtroom to recognize a boundary. But I wanted a record. A line in ink, this happened and it will not happen again. Every now and then, a message slipped through. Mom sent a group photo from a cousin's barbecue. No caption. Dad forwarded an article about the power of forgiveness. Lucas sent a single line one night at 2:14 a.m. I hate you. I didn't reply. By morning, he had deleted it and replaced it with, sorry, things are hard. I still didn't reply. Silence is not revenge. Silence is oxygen when you've been breathing smoke. Spring turned to early summer. My firm signed a restaurant group that needed a full turnaround. Long nights came back, but they were my choice. Mina and I spread papers on the conference table like a city map. We circled problems in blue pen. We solved them one by one. At midnight, we ate Thai takeout from paper boxes and laughed about nothing. It felt like life, not survival. On a quiet Sunday, I drove past my parents' neighborhood. I didn't mean to. My hands turned the wheel on their own. The house looked smaller than I remembered. The real estate sign out front surprised me. For sale. Fresh white post, bright red letters, a neat rider underneath price reduced. I sat there for a minute with the engine running. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel guilty. I felt released. That house had been a museum of rules I didn't decide. I had taken down every exhibit and walked out. I drove home, put my keys in the bowl by the door, and watered the one plant I'd kept alive. It's funny what you can keep alive once you stop bleeding out for other people. A week later, a letter arrived. Actual paper. My name written in Mom's perfect, looped handwriting. I stood at the counter with the envelope in my hands and didn't open it right away. I made tea. I watched the kettle hiss. Only then did I slide a butter knife under the flap. It wasn't long, not dramatic, not an apology exactly. Adrian, we miss you. Things have been difficult. Your father isn't sleeping. Lucas is trying. I know you think we haven't supported you, but we did what we thought was best. Please come to dinner next Sunday. No talk of money, just family. Love, Mom. No talk of money, just family. 5 words, 2 lies. I put the letter back in the envelope. I didn't throw it away. I also didn't say yes. Instead, I called my therapist. Yes, I started therapy. Quietly. A small office with soft chairs and a clock that ticked gently. She never told me what to do. She asked me what I wanted. It took me 3 sessions to say it out loud. I want a life where my worth isn't a tool anyone else can pick up. We built that life piece by piece. We practiced what I would say if I ever chose to speak to them again. We practiced what I would do if they ignored it. We wrote my boundary down like a contract. I am not your safety net. I am not your investor. I am not your buffer against consequences. If you contact me, do it with respect. If you try to take from me, the conversation ends. I kept a copy on my fridge with a magnet shaped like a tiny blue house, a joke I told only to myself. Late summer, I did something I never thought I would do. I went back to campus to speak to a small group of seniors about transitioning into finance. Karen invited me. You have a story they need, she said. I stood at the front of a bright room with a dry erase marker in my hand and told them the parts I could working 2 jobs studying when my eyes burned, building a business from a laptop on a wobbly table. I didn't talk about my family. I talked about value, about learning the difference between help and harm, about the cost of saying yes when you mean no. When the session ended, a girl with ink on her fingers came up to me. My older brother keeps borrowing my rent money, she said. He says I'm selfish if I don't help. What do you think I asked? She looked down at her shoes. I think he's counting on me being scared to choose myself. I nodded. I was scared too. Choose yourself anyway. She cried a little and hugged me. I accepted it the way you accept rain in spring, grateful and surprised. In early fall, Michael took a small group of us out to celebrate a milestone. The restaurant had soft lights and linen napkins that felt too nice for my hands. We ate charred octopus and steak that cut like silk. Michael raised a glass. To Adrian, he said, for making hard numbers look like hope. Everyone clinked. I smiled. Later, as we walked toward the valet, Michael fell into step beside me. Family doing better? He asked. I told him the truth. I don't know. I'm not checking. He nodded once. That's an answer. It was. There was one more chapter I didn't expect. A message from Grandma Simple like a stone dropped in a still pond. I'm moving to an apartment near the lake. Too many stairs. Would you like to pick a few books from my shelves? I went. She made tea. The apartment smelled like lemon oil and old paper. We didn't talk about my parents. We talked about books. I took a slim poetry collection and a battered copy of an economics text from the 80s. At the door, she squeezed my hand. You were always steady, she said. Maybe we confused steady with endless. We stood there for a second in the soft light of her hallway. I nodded. She nodded back. That was all. On the way out, I passed a framed photo of our family from years ago. Lucas with a medal around his neck, me holding a certificate no one asked to see. I didn't feel the old ache. The picture was just a picture now. The boy in it had done his time. The man standing in front of it had chosen his life. The last time I heard from Lucas, it was a voice memo. His words were rough edges nicked with shame. Look, I don't expect anything. I'm getting help. I'm paying down what I can. I get why you left. I'm not asking for a fix. I just wanted you to know I'm trying. I listened twice. I didn't respond. Not because I wanted to punish him. Because sometimes the kindest thing you can give a person is the room to do the work themselves. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors with locks you control. 1 year to the day after my graduation, I hosted dinner at my place. Mina, 2 friends from the running group, Karen and Michael, stopped by. We ate roasted chicken and garlicky green beans. Someone brought a mustard I can't pronounce. We told stories about terrible bosses and great songs. I kept catching myself waiting for something to go wrong. It didn't. After everyone left, I washed dishes with the window cracked open. The city hummed. My plant lived. My phone stayed quiet. I took the notebook where I'd written every injury and turned to the last page. I didn't tear anything out. I didn't burn it. I just closed it and put it on a high shelf next to the diploma. I stood in the middle of my living room and said the thing I'd been waiting to say softly to no one. I'm free. That's not a happy ending tied up with a bow. It's a responsible beginning built with both hands. I don't know if my parents will ever understand what they did. I don't know if Lucas will ever stop wanting an easy ladder out of holes he dug. I do know this when people show you that love means erasing yourself. You can teach them a new definition by refusing to disappear. So here's my question for you, wherever you're watching from. Did I go too far or not far enough? If you were me, would you have opened that envelope and walked back into their house for one more dinner, or kept the door closed and protected your peace? Tell me in the comments. And if you've had to choose yourself even once, I'm proud of you.